It is time once again for the weekly closes of our favorite Bitcoin miners. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with them this week. But before we get going, check out the channel memberships, especially that stalagmite level where you get the real-time trade posts and members only videos where you see exactly how I am handling this market right now. Also, we are almost to 10,000 subscribers. We're at 9,610. Help us get there. Subscribe now if you haven't already. Share this video, get it out there. Maybe we'll get some more subscribers, get us to 10,000, and I'll open up the stalagmite level posts to all paid tiers through the end of 2025 or for 30 days in 2026 if it happens then. And I will be leaving for Poland tomorrow for the week, for the Thanksgiving week. I will be living mostly in the posts during that time while I'm not just, doing touristy stuff. So I'm not going to be super connected to the market next week. There will be sparse videos. Anyways, let's get into it. So first of all, let's look at Bitcoin. What happened to Bitcoin today? This is the big thing that I want to really look at here. Bitcoin hit $80,000 or $80,500 today. So if you remember, I was sounding the alarm. If we go to the weekly chart here, I was sounding the alarm the minute we were touching this 50-week moving average, and then we started pushing below it, and I was like, ooh, this is bad, bad, bad. And then we closed below it, and I said, yeah, that's really gonna dump. I got out of most of my positions, nearly all of them at about 102 around the 50-week moving average. You can see the 50-week is starting to curl down now, and that is bad. That is all quite bad. One more thing I want to bring to your attention is this. All right, look what we've got here. Big old cup. And it might push up to this part on the volume profile here. If it goes higher than that, then it invalidates the cup. But if it rejects there, it could push all the way down to the next levels here, which in this case, if we get rid of that, so we could push up to about 95,000, and that would push us down to, if the cup played out fully, $35,000. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, I think we're probably going to hit around 66, as you know. But yeah, big nasty cup, inverted cup that's coming through right there. Especially, you can really see it on the daily. If you zoom out a little bit, and just like it just really nicely completes almost here. Yeah, that'd be pretty nasty if it played out. Now, I do think that there may be today may have been a short-term bottom, at least a short-term bottom. I did take some risk with Bitcoin as well as with Mara today because I saw it reject off this really hard, this $80,000 level. I saw it reject off that pretty nicely. I'm looking for at least a move to 92, maybe a move to 98 here right now. Going into the next week, we'll see what happens. This will be, I have a stop loss on this under 80,000, under 80,500. I will be leaving that position. On Mara under like $9, I'll be leaving that position. But I decided to take a little risk today, take a swing at this. I don't think that it's fully over yet. I think we do have at least one little counter trend bounce. At least we did back here at the end, right? We came down under the 50 and then pushed back up to the 50. In that case, we'd be pushing up to about 102,000, which would be very exciting right now, especially for the calls that I have. That'd be pretty good for them. I'd be doing very well with that. Anyways, let's go on to the weekly for the miners. So let's go ahead and let's see. Yeah, we got that. All right. These dashed lines here, I'll do this. Those dashed lines are a different time frame. Same thing. They are for what time frame? They're on the daily. So those are the daily 50 and 20 of the dashed lines. But we're not going to pay attention to those right now. Just ignore those for now. All right. CleanSpark came all the way down to $9. Came down to $9. I've been talking about this space as like total catastrophe. We'd be coming down here, and it looks like we got it, and that's really unfortunate. Do I see much here? Possibly. I mean, we came down towards the bear market lows here, which is the 20. Usually we bounce off the 200. Usually we bounce off the 200-week moving average and get a little pop up. In this case, I'd be looking at that 50-week around $11. Maybe if we're really lucky, maybe it'll pop up to about $12. But currently we are in what I would call this is the crash for these things. For a lot of these things, it's a bit of a crash, especially the ones that haven't established themselves in AI yet, like CleanSpark and honestly, to a certain extent, Mara. They've been punished the most for not pivoting to AI fast enough. They will, and maybe they'll get some benefit at some point. But yeah, right now we hit the 200-week. I do expect some kind of a bounce off this, at least to 11, maybe to $12, $13. Past that, if we get over 13, I'd be looking at 1654, especially if Bitcoin can retake 100,000 and we can stop punishing AI stocks. Yes, I could see that happening. And if they announce something positive about their AI involvement, yes, I can see that happening. Otherwise, no. We're down on the last line of resistance. We are below it right now. We closed beneath our third line here. So we had one angle, Then we had two at that. The second angle got defeated pretty quickly, and that third angle was didn't even fight, and it just boom came down, hit that first angle, which really sucks. Right now, I think on the low end we are looking at about $8 for CleanSpark, and I don't really see it going much lower than $8. But you know, who am I to tell it to stop, right? So that's what's going on there with CleanSpark. We do have a 786 level down here at 783, which is the bottom of the bull flag going into 2023, 2024 move. So we could come down to that. We could revisit that. So be aware of that. All right, let's go look at Mara. And the warrants. The warrants are actually holding their value a little better than I expected. The warrants are actually holding their value a little. I would have thought they'd been down at 20 cents by now, maybe 15, with how far down CleanSpark has fallen and with Bitcoin. So I'm actually quite surprised that these are holding. This is actually not a terrible, it's a gravestone doji, but it's not terrible because it went down and pushed up to the upper half of that doji, that gravestone doji. So yeah, let me get rid of this. This is done for. This is also done for. Yeah, so this one's also losing a lot of the lines that I had on there. Let's clean this up a bit. So I would have thought this would be doing worse. So I mean, this might be a surprising thing. I don't have any anymore. I got rid of all of them when I was still up about 30-40% on them. So that's that for CleanSpark warrants. We won't talk about that any further. Mara got absolutely obliterated. Mara's been destroyed. Okay, Mara has just taken a wicked dive for the biggest Bitcoin miner around. It's really not done well. We lost this ascending channel. We lost this big ascending channel first, right? And that was the first sign that things were not good. We got a couple of cups that just failed over. So this first cup here, I'll draw it. This first cup here, that failed. I mean, it looked like we were going, right? We even got to the top of it again, and then it failed spectacularly down here. This little cup on top of that cup to build further confluence, that failed as soon as we got under $18, and that was done for that one. So I mean, Mara's just been doing cup after cup after cup that keeps failing. Let me turn off the drawings for a second. Hide drawings. Okay, so right now, again, I took risk on Mara because look at where it came to, basically to the penny down here, 971-ish, to the penny of this bottom back here from March, which was the April lows, right? Like the April March low areas area. So this is where we had like the worst of it earlier in the year, and we bounced here, and we bounced pretty hard, and we went all the way back up quickly to 21 really before we had a significant pullback, and then further on to about 23 from there. So Mara might have a chance if Bitcoin can't fail here, if Bitcoin can get a turnaround here. Mara has the highest risk to reward for me, because if we look to the downside, I mean, I could lose $10 more, right? I could lose $10 more, but I'm looking at a move of at least 6 up, probably closer to 12, 13 up. And if things really get cooking, maybe even especially if they get some AI deals like Iren or anything, we could be seeing this moving up a few, $20, $30, and that would be pretty exciting for Mara. So yeah, downside, the most I could lose is $10. I'll quit before then. I'm looking at probably losing about 3 or 4 for a chance to make 6 to 20. So I mean, the risk to reward is there for Mara right now. Even if I take a loss on this, I had to take a swing at it. Okay, and of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. I am not a financial advisor. You got to do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and be responsible for your own risk, because investing is risky and you can lose it all. All right, so I took a swing on Mara here. I will be, like, if we sweep this low over here at 721, yeah, I'd be exiting that position for whatever is left of the contracts. I went out till March with like a $15 call. So if it gets over $15, again, which it could, because this volume spike up here is at, almost $16, those would be doing quite well. And if it pushes to 20 or 30, they'll be doing exceptionally well. So yeah, I decided Mara was a go here. I did take a loss on those before, a couple weeks ago, and I'm taking another swing now, much lower on the price. So that's what I'm looking at with Mara. We're below all the moving averages. Mara looks like an absolute turd. If we go any lower than, if we sweep, all right. Also, if we go any lower than 969 here, any lower than that, it's going to dump down to $7. And if it doesn't hold at $7, that's at Mara's basically cooked for this cycle. And this is a huge. This is looking like a huge bear flag. This is looking like a huge bear flag. And if that is a bear flag, we go down twice that move there, right? Which is going to be like all, almost into negative territory. We're talking sub $1, right? If this bear flag plays out to like the full extent of its possibility, negative $10, right? So yeah, we'd be pushing down to like you know, the previous lows back here if that bear flag were to play out. And if you look over here, we did on the weekly get also a pretty wicked bear flag back in 2019 that pushed it all the way down to 35 cents. We could see something like that. Like if this bear flag plays out, yeah, we could see that. With that could happen tomorrow. If we see this bear flag that we're looking at right now play out, yeah, that could happen. Now, we've had some wicked nasty flags in the past that didn't play out. So we'll see. We'll see. This could be a crazy bear flag or a wicked double bottom that has it coming flying out of this thing and pushing higher and higher and higher. They're just going to need some AI deals to get crushed and for Bitcoin to stop, falling apart. So those things will come possibly. Hive. What's going on with Hive? So we hit the 50-week moving average as well as the 200-day moving average, I believe. Let me go look at that. Yeah, 200-day moving average. This is an area I would be interested in Hive as well. I'd be interested in Hive here as long as the 200. If it so basically your risk to reward right now is at 275. You cut it if it's bad, and if it's not bad, it could push as high as the 20-day easily, or the 50, which is 479, which would be a risk reward of oh come on, a risk reward of 14 cents versus almost $2. That is huge. Let's do the calculation right here with this one. Let me bring this to here and push it to there. You're looking at a risk reward of like 14.62 to 1. That's a pretty sweet odds. I do like that for Hive right now. So I didn't load up any Hive yet, but I'm looking to potentially do that next week. Hive has already been getting some buys from some players here. They're getting involved in AI more so than CleanSpark and more already. So yeah, I'd be looking at these ones. I'd be looking at this maybe at like a $3.71 or $4 for a push if it does it, and otherwise invalidation at like that 270, underneath like 270, I'd be cutting it. So giving 20-30 cents to the downside, potentially $3-4 to the upside. $2-3 to the upside, excuse me. So Hive, I like where it is right now. Now we do have a red on the BX trender. Momentum is all really terrible. I'd be looking on maybe a 4-hour chart for momentum to come back. So basically I'd want to see something like this on the 4-hour chart. Let me go ahead and draw on page. I'd be looking for, so we already got this like shoulder here. This could be a head. We could come back up, do another shoulder, and then I'd want to see it take out that neckline. And then once we're doing that, maybe it'll piddle around above it and then push from there. But I'd want to see some kind of structure like that, or maybe something like this, and then just a bull flag, or maybe something sideways, and then it push higher afterwards for that. So Hive, I actually really like where it is right now, and I'd be looking probably at the 4-hour to see it get above this 20, maybe retest it from above, and then carry on. And then I'd be very interested in getting into Hive, or I mean, you could always just load up here, with hopes and prayers, and if it goes under the 200-day moving average, cut it. That's also an option. So that's Hive. Bitfarms, similar sort of thing. It hit the 20-week moving average. That's mean reversion. If it bounces here, which is looking like it's trying to, yeah, this is an inverted hammer candle. Yeah, okay, those aren't bad. Now we do have red on the BX trender. We do have a 50, potentially a 50 retrace on the RSI, and pretty nasty stochastics. But again, if you push down to like a 4-hour, I'd be looking for something for it to not go beneath $2.20. So under 220, I'd cut it, and I'd be looking for a move akin to something like, I'll draw it out again. I'd be looking for a move akin to something like coming up here, coming back, testing this volume from below, and then starting to push, and then anywhere above these wicks over here, which would be above like $3, or 285, 290, something like that. I'd be looking to go long, and I'd be targeting this up here around $4, maybe higher, where that volume spike is. I'd be targeting maybe 460 after it does that, but this could also resolve to a double bottom situation. And I do that in anything I'm interested in, right? If it's showing me like, okay, we're hitting the 20-week or the 200-day, I go down to something like and the stochastics and the BX trender look terrible at that level. I'd be going down to like the 4-hour level and be like, all right, where would I be interested in taking some risk and getting behind these things for a potential, dead cat bounce out of these guys. ARBK, I'm completely abandoned this. It never went up. I still have the 5 calls that I just are basically worth nothing just in case something happens. But yeah, these ones never even tried. So that's that for that. Can, as you know, I made about 500-600% as it went up to 220. I got most of my cost bases out at that level, and I took a few $1,000s of profit as it came down, and then I'm still holding about 5 down here, again just in case it does something wild. I do think Can's probably done. Can generally doesn't do 2 pumps. If I get one more move, it might go up to like $1.16. That's probably about all I'm gonna get out of CAN. I think, you know, you can tear me apart for that in the comments if you want. I don't care. I'm not getting back into CAN, I don't think. So Luna might continue because again, Soluna is an access to power, right? They have a significant access to power. They're breaking ground on data centers. As soon as data centers come back to being something that everyone wants again, this thing could take off. And again, it could go way higher than it has before. Like $5 could be the beginning. It could find itself pushing up, you know, maybe to 10, maybe to 30. Somewhere around there, I could see, especially with the power portfolio they're building out. Yeah, I could see Soluna eventually getting there. And this is a significantly better price than $5 currently. It did do a 50-week and a 20-week SMA retrace here. All I need to see is this 50-week start to curl back up. I'd be feeling pretty good about it. Now, I did sell all of my Soluna. Again, those made like 800%. I took out my cost basis there, and I ended up making about 200% overall, 200 to 300% overall on my Soluna. I'm still holding 50 shares. I might bump that back up to a few hundred here if it starts showing life again. If it comes all the way back down to, you know, the 30-40 cent range again, and I see other data center stocks moving higher, then I might buy a few thousand. But currently where it is right now, I'm just kind of sitting, waiting, watching. Same sort of scenario, right? I'm going to go down to like the daily, see how that looks. Oh, look, it's almost going to hit the 200. So I might wait to see if it's going to hit the 200 because especially with the 20 crossing under the 50, it's probably going to do that. And then I'd be looking for, on like a 4-hour, again, around a 4-hour chart, I'd be looking for it to get above the 20 and the 50, give me some kind of structure to show me that it's going to go higher. And then that's probably the time frame I'd use to get behind it when I'm ready to do so. Okay, so there's that. Let's take a look at HUT. How's HUT? HUT hit the 20-week moving average, gave us a doji, so it's pretty happy being down here. It's content being down here. The BX trender is still green, but getting weaker. Stochastics look bad. Everything kind of looks bad. So I'm looking at the volume profile here. Notice how we got held underneath this little hump here around 37.40 or 37.64. We're probably targeting 26 or a little lower around 23.84 at the 50-week moving average. We're probably targeting the 50-week moving average unless the 20-week holds. If the 20-week can hold, we could just go flat here and then back up. But if it can't hold, then we're probably gonna hit the 50-week. The only reason I'm saying that instead of like being all optimistic here is it's still only about halfway down from that parabolic move. We came back, tapped this high and bounced a little bit there, but we did not get above the bottom of the body here on that big white candle at 36.85. So the fact that we couldn't push through that tells me that we probably want to retest this low here. And if we retest that low and it holds, then we're going to come down to the 50-week. That's all. That's kind of where I'm at there. And this is quite parabolic. Little double top up here. We violated that. Let's go to the daily. I can show it to you. Yeah, double top. We violated that double top. And oh, look at this. Today is the first day we got a candle completely living beneath the double top. Okay. Also looks a little bit like a head and shoulders, right? So we had a top, and then we got a little left shoulder, head, little right shoulder, little mini shoulders here, but that could push it all the way down to like 23, 22, and that would complete the move. And then once that move is completed, then it could potentially bounce and ricochet back up real hard. So I wouldn't like count it out, but I'm not too optimistic at this time. Okay, not like with Mara, where it's like, how much further can Mara go down? Realistically, not that far. You know what I mean? Or like Hive, how much further can Hive realistically go down from here? Where before you know it's gonna go way lower, so you take you take your loss off the table there, you take your hit, and then you wait for it to go way lower, and then you reassess it from there. Same with Bitfarms. It's got very little downside before you'd say, okay, it's gonna go way further. I better cut this thing, and then you let it settle afterwards. You take your loss and you let it settle. All right, Iren. What's going on with Iren? Iren's giving me HUT vibes. It did a double top there. It came down. Iren really suffering right now. You can see from here it came down about 48%, currently sitting about 45%. For the darling, it's suffering a bit now. Remember, it tends to lead, but like CleanSpark lagged to the upside, led to the downside. Mara lagged to the upside, led to the downside. Boo, that sucked. So Iren hasn't really retested any highs from before. It hasn't touched the 20-week moving average. I kind of feel like it's going to have that chance here because especially look at this on the right. You can see this little hump on the volume profile about 47.14. We got to that, couldn't get it. We couldn't get above the 5 or the 9 week, and we got pushed down hard from there. This volume is huge. The stochastics look bad. The RSI hasn't gotten back to the 50 yet, and the BX trender is about ready to go red next week. So I'd be looking at that 20 for a potential tap at 36.98. If that can't hold, I'd be looking for the 50. I'd be looking for a retest of this high from back here in July, which would be about 21.50, which would be huge and sad if you bought up in the 77s. But I mean, the stock does that. It does that. That's what this one will do that. I mean, minimum, I want to see it come back to touch the high from IPO, which is around 28.35. That would be like the least I'd expect out of it, at least a touch of that. No one wants to hear that, but you know, it went parabolic. It's got to find gravity somewhere. Anyways, yeah, that's it for Iren. I'd expect that. It did the double top. Let's see if it's like HUT, where like this was the first day it lived fully under there. Today was the first day it lived fully under the double top. If it can stay down there for 2 more days, like if by Tuesday it's not getting back up over 47.50, then yeah, it's probably going to touch the 200-day moving average. And that's kind of that. It becomes statistically more likely it's going to go down to the 200-day moving average if it lives underneath that double top for at least 3 days without touching it again from below. Okay, Btdr. Whoa, whoa! I have not looked at Btdr. Did I look at Btdr last week? Whoa, that's bad. Look at that, 52%. And then this week is just a tiny little sliver of a doji. Whoa, ho, ho. This is kind of what I'm thinking Iren might do. Wow, that sucks. I'm really sorry for anybody that was up here at 27, 28, and it's now back down to $10. Dude, that's like, oh, that is so bad. It's only worth 30% of what it was. If you put in $1,000, you'd have like $300 left. Yeesh. All right. That's not what we're here to do. Okay. Whew, we're below this volume spike. It's probably going to push down. If it pushes down further, it's going to touch $7, $8. Now, the only good thing about this is most of the down move has been done, right? Realistically, how much further could it go down, right? So if you believed in Btdr and you're like, I'd like to pick some up around here, if you were to do so, and of course nothing I say is financial advice, not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. Got to do your own research, come to your own conclusions, be responsible for your own risk, because investing is risky and you could lose it all. So it's really important you do your own due diligence there. But down here, look at this, 972. So basically, if I were to buy Btdr, if I wanted to buy it, if I was just jonesing to buy it, because I was like, man, it went down so far, it's got to bounce, right? That doesn't mean it's got to bounce, by the way. But if I were, I'd say, okay, my risk is from $10.29 down to $9.72. That is my risk. And anything below that, I cut the trade, and I move on with my life. My upside is a move up to $13, possibly up to $15. And if that can't hold it back, if things get really wild, we're looking at $16 to even $18. So we're looking for a risk of less than $1 for a potential move upwards of, let's see, $2.50, $4.78, or if you're really ambitious, around $8. So less than $1 for a move of like 8. So you're like potentially of an 8x move compared to your risk. So that's not too bad. Now, I don't love stocks like this one needs to show me significant structure for me to be interested in this, especially after that insane drop off. And this is not it. this is not it. So it would be right here, right? I'd need to see it go above the 9, tap it from above, and then boom. Then I'd be looking like this thing's got to come in here like this, and then get above this volume spike right there, and then maybe fill that gap, and then start filling that gap, and then I'd be interested. Not after it fills this gap, but once it starts to show that like it could fill that gap, then I'd be interested. Until then, it looks like it's gonna not do much else. Riot, how's Riot doing? Riot came down to the 50-week, bounced. I like that. That's not terrible. Again, realistically, how much further could Riot go down? Maybe as low as 1065, but honestly, I'd be looking at 1065, 1067. So you'd be risking like $2-ish, $2-ish for a chance for it to move up to like for $2. So it's a 1-to-1. This is more of a 1-to-1, right? I'm looking for an opportunity of like 289 with a risk of about $2. So almost 1-to-1, like 1.5 to 1. Realistically, and potentially it could move up, $5 or $6 if it's gonna go back to the 9. So Riot again, also not terrible, not in a terrible position. I would consider this worthy of potentially taking risk, and then if it closes underneath the 200-week moving average, then I'd say, okay, I was wrong. Time to cut my losses and move along. But you're getting a significantly, if you believe in Riot, you're getting a significantly better deal down here at $12.71 than you were up here at $23.95. Just something to think about. Cifr. Yeah, this one same. This is not so great. I don't like this little body, this candle down here. I feel like this one wants to hit the 20-week moving average down at about 1143. If that doesn't hold it, then of course it might come down to the 50-week, which is currently 710, or potentially down to this volume spike down here at 612. To the upside, I'd really need to go down to something like the daily. And I need to see it get above the daily again. I need to see it above $16, otherwise I'm not interested. And of course, I must mention that this looks like a bear flag, and it looks like we're confirming that bear flag, and that looks like it wants to come down to the 200-day moving average, which is currently down at 757. So Cipher looks like it's still got some downside. Some of those ones that were hot a few weeks ago look like they want to hit at least their 20-week moving average, maybe their 50-week moving average. And I would need to see significant bullish structure forming at current prices to even entertain the idea of getting behind those right now, because they could go a lot further. Like this one would, if that's true, this one could fall upwards of 291 with a potential upside of about 242. That's a 1-to-1 realistically there, and maybe if you're really lucky, pushing it up to about 6. I realistically the 20 might stop it, but we might also come all the way down to $7. So you could lose $7, and the max you could potentially gain is about 588, unless there's a big something happens that causes it to be better than that. But if Bitcoin cycle is really over, they're really the only thing they have is AI, and that may or may not drive it that high or not. We don't know. I would not assess it to go that much higher. That's all. Let's do a real quick fib on this bad boy right here, unless I've done one already. I have done one already. Look at me go. Oh, but it ended there. So let's go here. The 786, yeah, 786 would be at least down to $9 here from the bottom of the top of this move. So yeah, that's that for Cipher, I think, for now. Let's go take a look at Core Z. Core Z, even that deal with CoreWeave couldn't save it. Looks like it wants to touch the 50-week down at 1327, but again, I mean, your risk is from 1473 to 1327, which is a little over $1, but your upside is to about 18, which is almost $4, about $4. So yeah, that has that risk to reward. I'm not saying that these are good setups. I'm not saying that you would definitely make money. I'm not saying that in this. I'm just saying the risk before a reasonable trader would say, okay, this trade is over, is less than what you could potentially gain if it were to bounce. That's what I'm saying. I hope that makes sense. Well, this is not financial advice. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not saying these things are going to bounce. I'm just saying if they were, the upside has greater potential than the downside before I would know that it's going to go way further and I would cut the trade. It allows me to properly do risk management here, whereas up here at 20, like if you bought the high at 23.39, yeah, you're looking at moving down to like 19 before you'd be like, all right, I got to cut this, and you have no idea how high it could go. Whereas right now I'm like, yeah, okay, at 18, very realistic price. Downside, 1327, I'd have to walk away. Let's take a look at Wulf. How's Wulf doing? Similar scenario. We got a bit of a shooting star there. Yeah, Wulf probably wants to touch that 20-week at 995, but I believe they have Google behind them, so they're probably the 20 might catch them. The 20 might catch them. So I would watch that for Wulf, just because it's got some big players behind them. But if that doesn't catch them, then of course it'd be coming down to the 654. So in this case, in this scenario, these are pretty far apart. So I don't hate Wulf either, just because my risk down is $1.36, and that's where I would cut the trade, because then it would be falling 476 in total, right? And to the upside, I'm looking at a potential gain of about 162, possibly return to the high at 576. So it's almost a 1-for-1 for the lower end in terms of risk to reward, and to the higher end, it's like a 1 to 3 almost. So not too bad there. I would be interested in Wulf if it started to give me some structure here. Like, let me go down to the daily. Yeah, if we got back above the 50, this is going to look like a double bottom. So back above the 50, it would look like a double bottom here. So it would come in here like this. We get above that area, and then pew, back to the highs. All right, so let's go there. That's that for Wulf. Of course, this all looks bad, though. This all looks bad. This could easily, again, and if it goes lower than 1046, yeah, it's going to fall. It's going to fall all the way to 664, potentially. So keep that in mind. 664, yeah, that's all the way down there. And that 20-week, if that didn't hold it, that's how you know it's going to go down to the 200-day, which is all the way down to the 6th level. So let's take a look at Btdr. Btdr, $2.09. I've said it many times. It went under $2. So under $2, Btdr has always been kind of a decent buy under $2. So I don't hate it here. And this has been in a range. Look, it's been in this range between $2 and honestly $5.50 since April 2023. So it might do it again. Okay. again, an area where if it went lower than 168, I'd cut it, and to the upside, I'm looking for 298, maybe 365. So like the risk is relatively low compared to what you could potentially gain if it were to turn around. Let's see, CANG. Whoo, boy, I don't even know what to say about this thing. Downside risk is that 120, so about 4 cents, 5, 6 cents, something like that. Let me take a look. Downside risk of about 5 cents. If it were to go lower, if it closed underneath that 200-week moving average, I'd be like, yeah, I'm leaving. And to the upside, I'm looking at potentially 78 cents, maybe even $1. So again, CANG might actually, this after losing this wicked double top, coming all the way down, it might be looking like this one could go back to 228. So it might be something to assess. It could do maybe even almost a double up from here. That'd be almost a 100% move from here. Yeah, it'd be about 89, 90% move there. And on options, that would be pretty great. So maybe I'd look at this one next week. BMNR, we're going to do just for fun. Hit the 200-week moving average again. My risk here is down to $22.84, and my possible reward is up to $45. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me. If it were to fall, I'd lose $3 per share, and if it went up, I'd gain about $19 per share. So I did take a little risk on BMNR as well today. Same thing with MSTR. I'm looking at MSTR as a potential area to take some risk. I think MicroStrategy might continue a little bit further down. It might hit that 200-week moving average around 142. If it hit that 200-week moving average, you better believe I'm going to take some risk on Mara for a move back up to about 220 or so. That would be insane. Or if I just go down to the daily, I think it hit the 200-day. It's below the 200-day moving average. So basically, yeah, this thing is just falling off of an absolute cliff. It's hitting this zone over here. I mean, dude, it might just come down to like 140. Yeah, 140, 140. Yeah, I could see it doing that. But if I see it breaking like this trend line here, let me draw it. If I see it like break this trend line here, I would be very interested in it, which would be a price currently of about 197. I'd be really interested in watching it up to 234, potentially even up to 284. And I might even just buy shares because that'd be a pretty good move on MSTR. If it were to do just a little counter trend bounce, I mean, even last cycle, we got a little counter trend bounce around this time in that cycle. And that counter trend bounce was something like, what, 45% up? So if we were to get that right now, 45% up counter trend bounce would be about up to 244, about $76 per share. So if you bought 10 shares, you're looking at $760 on the move. So that's not too bad. Not too terrible, actually. Not bad at all. So I am interested in that. And my risk would be, if it hit down there, my risk would basically be none because I'd be taking out the 200-week moving average. And if it decided to go lower, then I'd just leave. I just take my money and leave and wait for it to look better. That's it. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, share this video. Those things do so much to help grow the channel, and we're really trying to grow. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers. Help us get there. Check out the channel memberships before you go, especially that stalagmite level. We're doing some really great stuff in there. We'd love for you to see it, and have a profitable day.